Welcome everybody to this week's webinar. We are going to talk about how to leave work when you work from home. So thanks for joining us. Beth Boghossian has joined us again to deliver her expertise and find the calm in our crazy lives. Friendly Lawyers puts on these webinars to help you manage your work-life balance, to help you grow your social network, and hopefully support you in your business ventures and struggles. That's why we're here to help. We want to thank Mycenae Advisors, who have generously offered webinars to bring them. Mycenae offers small business accounting services, and they target their work for business professionals like us. They're located in Mount Prospect, so feel free to give them a holler if you need some help. With that, I'm going to bring Beth up to the screen so that we can get started. Beth, can you start your video?
Hi.
Hi. How are
So
you?
good to see you. Really good. I'm at home in one of my spaces that I use for home office work.
Me too. I would like to have that pillow that you have, though. That seems like a good addition to anybody's home office space.
Mm-hmm.
Funny
you should say that, because one of the tips that we use for working at home is to make it comfortable. You know, create a space for it and then make it comfortable.
Yeah. So comfortable that you don't want to leave?
Yes, you just want to work all the time. Just kidding.
How's this been going for you? We are, I think, 6 months plus into our pandemic routine. And, you know, it's like a whole new world.
It is, and we are, and constantly adjusting, balancing, assimilating, and staying open to change, and being accepting as best we can.
I know, I hear you.
Fingers crossed.
So how are we starting today's presentation? What are we talking about?
Well, I have a PowerPoint that we can refer to, and so we've done these together before, right? And I try to come up with some kind of catchy name. And I think it's, you know, kind of funny that we're looking to leave our work at home when we work at home. Or leave work at the office when our office is our home. So what I find funny about that is that we're all struggling to create these different spaces and compartmentalize, have greater boundaries than we did before, have fewer distractions. You know, we're distracted enough when we get up, get ready, get out of the house for the day, and go to an office building or go to court or meet with clients and what have you. And yet, you know, now when we're not really going anywhere, it's really tempting to see the kitchen needs to be cleaned, the dog needs to be brushed, the kids need to be doing e-schooling, and why are you not on your class? Why are you not paying attention to your Zoom call? You know, there are a million more distractions and shiny objects, if you will. So how do we stay focused, and how do really, you know, I love mindfulness. How do we work mindfully when we're working at home, and then how do we leave it at the office, so to speak, so that we can have a separate work life and home life, which is necessary to our physical health, psychological health, social health, family health, and everything else.
Yeah, I encourage people to use the chat box here, because it is most helpful when we can all share different perspectives and collaborate. So there is a chat box, and feel free to chime in at any time. I was going to say, to those comments you just made, one thing that I think has happened is that people have fallen on one side of the fence or the other. And what I mean by that is there's a group of people that are challenged by what you just described, meaning they're at home, but they have all these home distractions. And the way, or one of the ways that that was dealt with, was that you could go to the office and separate your work work from your home work by being in a physically different space. Now, on the other hand, I think there is another group of people which I fit into, and that is that now that I'm at home, it is a little bit more difficult for me to get out of the home office. So I'm not being so distracted by home things. Rather, because I'm home, I'm not leaving the office and moving my work away from home. Yeah, I'm working more at home. I'm spending less time with my home life. So it's interesting to me to think that people can fall on either side and be struggling as a result of the same causal effect. You know, we're working from home, but some people have trouble working at home, and other people might have trouble leaving work from home. And so, yeah, I definitely am interested to hear what kinds of practices you think, you know, we can utilize to help segregate and, you know, get disciplined on that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and I like to say this too, you know, nothing is rocket science except rocket science. And so with this, one of the things that I love about doing these is that it brings us together. I mean, one thing that psychologists say and social scientists say is to connect with other people. The World Health Organization changed it from social distancing to physical distancing for that reason. We don't want a social distance. We need to stay connected and stay social, and yet we need a physical distance because of the virus, okay? So social connectedness is important. And so this is one way for us to socially connect. Whether our participants actually write up on the wall and share their own experience or not, this is a way for us all to sort of be here together in a fairly informal setting and get CLE credit to boot, but just to show, you know, hear the experiences or the struggles of practicing law and living through COVID right now. So we are connecting. It's hopefully adding value, creating value just by us tuning in today to acknowledge that, yeah, the struggle is real, so to speak. You know, we are looking at balancing work and home, whether we can't get away from home or can't get away from work. Everyone has a different kind of spin on the struggle right now. So I'm glad we're here connecting, you know, socially, professionally, and the things that we'll talk about again are not rocket science. I'll give you some tips and some ideas, and please do share, because often we find out, psychologically speaking, that when we share, we get a little bit more out of it because we can hear where we're coming from, and then other people can agree or share their different experiences too. So just, you know, all good opportunities here in the next, you know, hour.
Just wanted to leave a quick comment for anybody who's watching to share if they feel like their social life has suffered during the new pandemic restrictions, so that we'll focus on that too in this group.
Did you ask me a question?
No, I'm saying,
oh.
I'm hoping that somebody will add to this discussion about whether, you know, they feel like their social life has suffered. I mean, and if that anxiety ticker has gone up as a result.
Something curious I find too is, even in conversations with people since COVID has started, like, is it harder for extroverts than it is for introverts? And I'm fairly introverted, but I sort of have social needs, higher social needs than the typical introvert. So it's different for me. Like, in a way, it's kind of nice to be in the four corners of my house and not have all the distractions and keep my energy there and get my energy and not be so depleted with the external world. But I do need connection. I mean, I'm, you know, very, very human, but I'm also pretty social, and it has impacted my social life because I'm not going downtown, but I have to just make more of an effort. And sometimes it's just noticing that I need a social connection. Sometimes I don't notice it, and then I go, oh, okay, time for me to reach out, phone some friends and colleagues and just connect, even if it's by phone or Zoom or, you know, whatever. Yeah. So, all right. Yes, great question. Should I start the presentation? Okay. Bingo. Okay, so it shrinks us and looks at the title page, how to leave work at the home office. I just want to throw a question out there if people want to chat. What interested you about this topic, or tuning in today? Was it the CLE credit? I know that's always a bonus, but is there something about the topic? Is there something that you want to say or get out of it? Because I'm always open to that. What are you looking for? And let's answer those questions. Let me look at the chat and just make sure that.
Go ahead. I'll flag if there's something you have to answer, and I'll monitor the chat for you as your co-pilot.
Okay. All right. I'm going to read the one comment that I noticed up here, and I see yours. Share if you feel like your social life has suffered. Okay. And then we have a comment. I find myself in the home office more and away from family. So, yeah, I wonder what that is like for you. Are you feeling more pulled to get more work done? Do you have more work? Is it just hard to separate? Because it's so easy to stay in the home office. Like you were saying, Donna, it's so easy to stay there because it's just so convenient. You're already there. And then you feel, comforted because you don't have a commute. You don't have to be home at a certain time. You're already there. So if you want to respond to that, Pilara, if that's how I say your name, or please correct me, then feel free to chime in. And maybe what we can do along the way too is, again, talk about how to disconnect from the home office, and maybe even give permission to do that, despite the convenience, despite that you're on a roll, despite that you're in the middle of a project. How do we create those limits for ourselves, and how might that be beneficial? So let me throw this one out there. What would be beneficial about being able to leave the work and be more with family instead of away from family? What would you like about that? What do you need?
Well, isn't that kind of a universal question? We all love our quality time away from work. In a lot of ways, that's the only reason we work, is to enhance our quality time. So I think a universal response would be, you want time, whether it's your family or your hobbies or your causes or your volunteer work, whatever it is that fulfills you. That's what is driving people to seek out more quality time. I think we can, hedge our bets against that.
Yes. And, what do you miss about it? Because sometimes just asking the question, then you think about, well, I miss the bedtime routine, or I miss making a homemade meal, or I miss the commute home because that's when I listen to my podcast and decompress a little bit before I'm with my family or my spouse or my pets or anything else. So, I encourage the listeners to think about what it means for them. What do you miss about, being more at the home office and less with the family or at home?
I think you're really asking people to kind of dig a little deeper. What exactly are you missing?
And I'm tempting you a little bit, to dream, and get back in touch with the things that you love about being with family. So it's sort of the link to how do we put some limits on work so we can go back to that joy and that satisfaction that we have outside of work. Just to get more in touch with that. Okay. So I'm going to move on to the next screen here. And this is part of why we're getting the credit for the CLE, is because we look at the challenges that lawyers face, the statistics, and then suggestions for change and support. And this is all before the challenges of a worldly pandemic here. So I like to turn your attention to the handout, which is an 80-some page report that was authored and published by the National Task Force on Lawyer Wellbeing. I almost feel like my job here today is done, because if you didn't know about the report before, I'm telling you about it. And I'm on a crusade to tell people about this report. I know you hear me talk about it all the time. So it's a report that was authored by a group that got together, a national group, to recognize that lawyers struggle and how and why. So this is the very last page of the report. I know you can't read it when I put it up like that, but it's the very last page, and it's the scales of justice. And on the one side, it talks about our challenges. On the other side, our potential. So in the list of challenges, there have been numerous studies. Years ago, the ABA Journal started putting the results of these research and findings out to say, hey, lawyers, wake up, this really is a problem. We have some statistical scientific data that is capturing the troubles of our profession. And, 21 to 36% of professionals, of lawyers, are problem drinkers. It's like a third. A quarter to a third. 28% struggle with depression, again, close to a third. 19% anxiety, and these stats are before COVID, and even a little old, a couple years old. So if I were a betting person, I would say they're probably higher. 23% struggle with elevated stress. I have not met a lawyer who doesn't experience elevated stress, if not on a continual regular basis, but on a project basis, case basis, whatnot. A couple more here. High suicide rate. We're one of the highest groups of professionals with a high suicide rate. It vacillates between the first profession and the fourth highest profession to experience rates of suicide. Work-life conflict. How do I keep my work at work when I work at home? We as a profession tend to avoid seeking help, maybe because we think we need to know all the answers, because our clients need to know answers and we're charged with getting them. And then lastly, job dissatisfaction and attrition. And it's interesting because I don't hear a whole lot about job dissatisfaction right now. There are a lot of people who are really grateful to have jobs. And so it's just, I'm going to work and I'm going to be productive so that I can stay, fruitful in my job and in my life and for my family right now. So, we have a lot of potential, obviously, contributing to society. I think it's professional rule 1.1. We have a duty to be competent for our clients' sakes and really for our profession at large. There is a willingness to see help, become engaged at work, continually seek intellectual growth. I mean, Daniel Goleman and all the people out there, social intelligence, emotional intelligence, there are so many resources for us to edify ourselves about what we can do to become more aware in our world and higher contributors. Our potential to be physically healthy, mentally thriving, and experience a sense of meaning and purpose in our works and work in our life. So that's some of the challenges, some of the statistics. Suggestions for change includes meditation and mindfulness. Appendix B includes 13 potential topics, educational topics for how do we seek well-being as a lawyer, given the golden handcuffs, given the struggles of working at home, given the pandemic, given the billable hours and everything else. What are the things that we can do? And mindfulness meditation is one of them. And it's certainly not the only thing I employ or try, but it is something that is scientifically, again, I go back to this, we lawyers love proof, scientifically proven to work as far as enhancing focus, productivity, increasing our physical health and the neuroconnectivity of our brain and cognitive and executive function. And then on the flip side, it works to allay or decrease things like depression, anxiety. There's a study out there that says an antidepressant and meditation are on par with each other. So whether you take an antidepressant or whether you have a meditation practice, they do the same thing. There's a study that says that.
Why is it so hard for people to adopt a meditation practice? I admit, it's very difficult for me to want to do this.
We're doers. We're doers, and we think meditation isn't doing anything.
Okay.
Perhaps. And in my experience and in my informal polls and in my discussions, we think it's hard for us to let go. It's hard for us to leave the home office because we have such a high value and insistence on being productive. And so sometimes even just coaching someone and giving permission to realize that meditation is productive. It's doing something productive in a different way. I'm not running a race. I'm not billing a client. Sleep is productive, right? Eating a meal is productive. So a lot of times it's our mindset.
Does meditation give you more benefits than, let's say, other activities that you find relaxing? Or are they on par?
To answer the question, both. So I talk about having a toolbox, and meditation is in my toolbox. So sometimes, and I meditate daily, generally speaking. So, and I notice my day is different if I don't. So meditation is in my toolbox, whereas working out is also in my toolbox. I try to have some kind of movement if it's not complete rigor and hardcore workout, which I don't even really do as much of anymore. Like I did 10 years ago, it was more of a, a hardcore workout. But now I do things like walking and getting movement and yoga. And it's not that they're not strenuous or healthy, they're just different, So we have different tools in our toolbox, and meditation is one. So am I going to derive the same benefits from meditation that all of those things provide? No. I'm going to look at my nutrition and how I eat healthy. Meditation isn't going to give me the same nutrition as eating healthy will give me, right? However, meditation might impact my well-being so that I just feel better and I want to put healthier foods in my body. Meditation might cause me to feel clearer and more aware of my priorities, which might be working out, as opposed to staying in my home office all day, not taking a break, not meditating, not eating healthy, not getting some exercise, right? So meditation fosters awareness to do all those things and take care of myself in all of those different ways. And that brings me to a great sort of segue. I always like to define well-being from as it's stated in the report. It's on page 9. You can see this sort of chart here. And the National Task Force talks about these different aspects of well-being. Well-being is a continuous process toward thriving across all life dimensions. So it's emotional, occupational, intellectual, spiritual, physical, and social. So if you were to ask someone, well, what is your well-being like? People usually think of physical. Am I in good shape? Or intellectual, psychological, is my mind healthy? And we think a lot of that with elder law. Is this person mentally capable, cognizant, things like that? But really, they define, they meaning the task force define, in Berkeley, California, and all of these other places. But, well-being, what is our well-being? It's a continuous process toward thriving across all of these dimensions, which is anything from physical to emotional, intellectual, occupational, spiritual. So I always like to point that out. That well-being isn't just, have I worked out today? And meditation.
That's a big thing is what you're saying.
Yeah. So how am I being well? What's my well-being like today? And sometimes you've seen this before, but I have this really simple triangle. I love using triangles because they're just so stable and simple. And, scales of justice, triangles are everywhere, and they're solid and they're balanced. But I suggest to people, take a triangle and, rate what's my physical well-being, social well-being, emotional well-being, and just sort of stay in touch with that. What's my well-being like today even if it's just in those 3 different areas, just to check in and have some awareness of how you're doing today. How am I doing with the pandemic in general? And just awareness. The first step is always awareness. How am I doing? What is my well-being like today?
Let's see if we can come up with, or just kind of throw out some nitty-gritty tips for trying to do that every day, because it seems like it's not something that comes naturally. It took years for our parents to teach us to brush our teeth, every day. And if it's not something that we do naturally, it's like something we need to force ourselves to get into the habit of doing. I mean, like you said, if you think triangles, and the triangle represents the 3 components of emotional, physical, and was it spiritual, did you say? Mm-hmm. Maybe something that you put some sort of triangle picture in your office space that you look at that can just give you a reminder to stop for a minute and just check in with yourself. Or maybe it's an alarm that says, you get this crazy that you set, at 10 a.m. or 2 p.m. that you commit to yourself, this is the time that I typically don't have meetings, and I'm going to go take a walk, or I'm going to step away, or maybe you say to yourself, I take a lunch every day. I give my eyes a break from screen time, but maybe you say to yourself, okay, after my lunch, it's 3 minutes of just listening, looking out the window or listening or just being still. I mean, what other ideas come to the top of your mind that people can think about to incorporate into their daily routine that is really easy, small, and someone says, oh yeah, I like that idea and I can fit that in. Do you have things like that?
Absolutely. Yes, totally. And this is going to speak to our guest's comment. She says, the time just seems to get away from me because work-home boundaries are blurred. So, wow, that is so kind. You are so not alone. And so what would work for you? I'm going to challenge everyone to come up with even a short list. I'm going to say 10 things that you can have as your parameters or boundaries or limits that you're setting for yourself to clear the lines so that they're not as blurry. And it is a challenge. Not only to come up with those things, but to stick with them. But I'm going to challenge you anyway. And this is what I do in the coaching. And if we were really coaching, there would be accountability. And I would say, well, how do I know you're going to do those things? Or you're going to text me tomorrow? Awesome. Because when we have accountability with people, then it keeps us honest, and I'm an honest person, but I need to stay honest with myself and on top of what I'm committed to doing. So if I'm really committed to clearing those lines and having some parameters for myself so that I can step away and honor that desire that I have, then how am I going to do it? How am I going to stick to it? So some of those ideas are this. I know there are apps out there where you can do a short meditation. Like you suggested, Donna, you can set your phone 3 times a day, once every hour even, just to tune in a little bit. I myself don't care for those types of alarms because they're a little jolting and distracting to me. If I'm going to take a break, it's going to be in between cases. Or if I know I have a bulk of discovery. So I'm a coach, a life coach, but I'm also a litigator, 20 years, I'm working cases and I have a different brain that I use for that. And when I go to work on a case, if I can budget, 2 hours of time to work on this discovery and then recognize I'm going to need another 2 hours tomorrow. 2 hours can easily turn into 4 hours. But just having the awareness that I'm doing that, so back to your point, what can we do? We can set time and space for certain projects and just budget our time for the day. So in the beginning of the day, if you look at your to-do list and things that you need to get done, inevitably it piles up and we get emails and other things and emergency motions or just, notice of hearing, other things that come in. But to look at our day, and one of the things that I do is I break down my day when I sit down at the beginning of the day and I say, what do I need to accomplish today? How long is it going to take? And then realize I need to build in twice the amount of time to get things done and or it will carry over to the next day. So does that make sense? To look at your day as a whole, budget time, and then also to commit to myself, I'm going to work until 5 o'clock today. And sometimes it comes in really handy, or even 3 o'clock. It comes in really handy to pick up my son from soccer at the high school. Yes, they're wearing masks and everything. They're not even playing games, but I'm so glad they get the physical activity. So in any case, that might serve as a time check for me where I'm not going to go back to my work after that. And it does take a ton of discipline. So let's be easy on ourselves. I'm tempted to go back to work because I'm so close to finishing. It's, the stop and start time is really difficult for me. I do really well when I have 10 hours of time and I can just plow through, but I hardly have really big blocks of time anymore between kids and other life responsibilities. So that's one thing you can do. Beginning of the day, set out to look at your day as a whole and then block out some time. I also like to see things that take A lot of time, like I said, answering discovery in a case or writing a petition for something, and just be really honest with myself about how long it's going to take, because I used to be really terrible at budgeting time. I'm still not the best, but as I get older, I budget 2 hours instead of 30 minutes for something that I'm being more realistic, right? So that's one thing that you can do. Another thing that you can do is set little mini goals for yourself, like what's something that I really like. I might have my coffee in the morning, but I'm going to make my smoothie, let's say, for lunch. So I kind of look forward to that. Or even taking a walk. If you commit to yourself to take a walk that day, don't second guess it. Don't think about it. So hello, night. Thank you. Just do it. Right?
That sometimes that is the hardest thing to do, is be true to yourself. You know, maybe you find your significant other or a friend or even just someone else that you say, hey, let's make a little pinky promise. If you're having this same problem, does 3 p.m. work for you? At 3 p.m., we're going to call each other. One of us is going to reach out to each other, and I'm committing to you that I'm going to bug you, and you're committing to me that you're going to bug me. And if I cannot take the call, something came up, but I will answer it otherwise. And in that moment, it breaks your, any chance you can just, mute that? The idea is that if you're committing to someone else mutually, the odds that you're going to follow through with it are going to go way up. I have no scientific basis for that, but I feel very strongly that's likely. Yeah. And I think that's a good idea. If you have trouble committing to yourself, find someone else that's willing to just say, yeah, every day, let's do this, and see how that works for our well-being.
Yeah, I love it. And you're leading right into the accountability that I was talking about. So in our coach training, accountability is one of the biggest things that we learn to do and learn how to do. And it's actually a skill, but there's no reason you can't do it with your friends or colleagues. Hey, let's call each other at 12 o'clock every Monday or 3 o'clock every day. Start to get in the mindset, Beth, that you're going to wrap up for the day, because you have to pick up a child here, you have to do this here, you need to be done, or even think of a dinner that you're looking forward to making, or like a soup recipe, like making soups. But to have an accountability partner, that is one of the biggest values that I was taught and that I hear as feedback from coach clients. One of the biggest values of coaching. That's one of the main reasons, top reasons people hire coaches. Mm-hmm. And coaches are more than lawyers in a lot of areas. Coaches' billable rates and contracts are higher than even our billable rates. And they're getting paid to keep us accountable. They're getting paid to keep us accountable.
Because the impact is enormous. I mean, same thing with people who have a serious commitment to physical either weight loss or toning, or some kind of commitment to that physical transformation that they want to make. A lot of times those are people who are willing to spend that money on a coach to guide them. So I can see that.
Absolutely. And I think we need to get away from the idea that it's there's something shameful about it, or like, I'm not disciplined if I don't do my homework. If I don't do my homework, there's a reason, if I'm really committed to it. And so, a lot of the coaching too is we get underneath, why do you want to do that? I want to lose weight because I want to look great. Well, when people say that, it's so often true. However, when you get deeper into it, I want to lose this. It's not just about looking great. It's about feeling. And people love feeling great. So then we, pare that down. And the accountability part is like, we get resonance around why you're committed to doing that. So our guest, wants to have less blurry lines to make more time with family, or just alone time being at home. So we get underneath that. Well, what does it feel like when you have that time? What are the feelings? And what resonates for you around that? I need to decompress. I need to just be around no one for a little while. So what is the meaning for you around having parameters around getting away from work and being more at home with yourself, your family, or whatnot. So, and then some of the things that we can do about just checking in are, like we've said, what are the tools in your toolbox? You can set an alarm. You can create a list of things that you're looking forward to, either making dinner. You can have a buddy hold you accountable, those things. And I kind of dare everyone to reach out to someone and have a buddy and explain to them, you know, I'm just needing a connection to encourage me a little bit around this. And I'm telling you, there's just no shame in that. You know, we're not lacking discipline because we're needing support. You know, we're creatures, we're human creatures. So it's just true that we have needs, and support is a really big one, especially now during COVID. Is that making sense?
It does. And by the way, I brought us up to the screen because it felt like we were kind of digging into this a little deeper. But of course, anytime you want to get back to your slides.
Okay. All right. I'm going to put us on here. So practicing law since COVID, what's it been like? What's it been like for you? You know, one of our guests said it's hard to get out of the home office because it's just, you know, the lines are blurred. So, you know, what can you do to get out of there? Some of these other tips too, and I love to research this stuff and see what is out there, but, you know, plan everything out. So that's something that I suggested already. Make your office yours and make it off limits. So maybe this will help you, our friendly guest. If you don't let anyone else in your home office, I don't know if that's a problem for you. It can be a problem for me. And sometimes I work out and about. So I have other coworkers, AKA children, family members, who come into my office because it's part of the home. So if I have a space and I designate it and say, when I'm here, I'm off limits. Even during this presentation, I sent a group text to my 3 kids and I said, thou shalt not disturb between 4 and 5. And 5 minutes into the presentation, I heard my youngest screaming, Mom, you know. So it's hard for them to get it. And it's hard for us not to just respond. You know, if I weren't online with all of you right now, I would have said what? Or I would have jumped up and gone to see what the trouble was. And I guess what, I didn't. And it's really quiet and everything's okay. And my other kids are home too, so they know what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, yes, boundaries. And I'm using this word a lot, but I challenge you to have them and experiment with them.
You and I, we have kids that are similar ages, and I as well have employed, I showed my kids a sign that I made that says, you know, do not disturb. And if that sign is on the outside of this door, you know, a chipmunk could be hanging from your earlobe, but you really just got to figure it out until
right.
But I know that other people, you know, with younger kids don't have that privilege of, you know, letting the kids work things out because they have babies or toddlers. You know, that's a whole different scenario. Right. So I have talked to people who have figured out, you know, shift work between them and their significant other. I suppose if you're working remotely, you know, there's a high likelihood that your significant other is working remotely if it's for the same reason that, you know, it's COVID and you're not a medical professional. So in some ways, families have tried to adapt to that. But what else have you heard for people who need to try to focus on work during work hours so that they can leave work and attend to family and quality time after? You know, that's part of the problem. If you're getting distracted all day long because of family, you then don't really ever leave work because you come back to it to try and make up for time. So have you come across or do you have other tips to address that for those families who don't have a mate to shift with or don't have older kids that can take care of themselves?
Mm-hmm. Yes. And the biggest tip is to be patient with yourself and them. Because you're a lawyer, you know, you are taking yourself and your job seriously. I don't question that at all. We all take it seriously. You know, otherwise we wouldn't be here right now. I would be sleeping under the covers, you know, or, you know, off somewhere else doing something else. So one, give yourself credit. You are you are a professional and you're doing the best you can. Okay, so that's the first thing. Number two, yes, tell your kids things like, mama has to do something right now. And, you know, I'm going to be honest. I'll speak as an I, have relied more on technology myself and with my kids. And it used to really pain me. And now I have more of an acceptance around it. So if I'm really needing space, time, quiet, I will fall back on the things that allow me to have that space and time and quiet. And whether it's a play date that I schedule for my youngest, who is young and not totally self-sufficient, you know, this is your time to be on your phone or use the tablet or watch a show. And planning ahead is really helpful for stuff like that. So remember at the beginning of the presentation, I said, block out your day, be honest and realistic with yourself and your children, spouses, housemates, about what you need to get done that day, but mostly yourself. And then really prioritize. So when you have the most energy, maybe it's in the morning after your cup of coffee or tea or something, then dig in and do those high focus things first. Don't leave them until, and again, it's discipline, but don't shame yourself if and when you don't do it. It's kind of inevitable these days. But yeah, so make a plan for yourself, have a buddy to stick to it, and then probably the most important thing is to forgive yourself when it doesn't go as planned. Just forgive yourself when it doesn't go as planned. And then call another friend who can support you in that. Be easy on yourself. Be easy on yourself. You know, so, and the other thing is, you know, one size doesn't necessarily fit all, which is why we give a whole lot of tips and which is why I share a lot of my toolbox, because not everyone's going to agree. So something that I find it important to get outside every day, rain or shine. So make a list of the things in your toolbox that you can put in your toolbox for things that make you feel better, give you a shift in perspective, give you a burst of energy. Sometimes it's meditation, sometimes it's working out, it's going for a walk, it's calling a friend. Sometimes it's just putting away the discovery project because you've hit your limit.
You reminded me of something that I once read. I don't like to wake up in the morning. I wish that I did. And I once read that I should try to have the first 2 or 3 things that I do every morning, things that I really love to do. So, you know, build that into my wake up time. If I have to be at work at X hour and it takes me Y amount of time to get ready for that, if I shift my schedule so that I give myself 45 minutes, whether it's read a book with a cup of coffee on the deck, or whether it's, you know, write something, or whatever it is that you just really love to do. One thing I read was to try to schedule that first thing in the morning to kind of give you a reason to be happy to get up and start your day, and you kind of start yourself off on the right foot. To set your day on a good trajectory. And another thought that I had, again, in the you know, in the context of what we're talking about right now, was, and based on what you were saying, was like nanny share. So we're trying to find ways to be disciplined, and we're trying to find ways to adjust our schedules that still allow us to meet our goals and minimize the disruptions. And everybody has different disruptions. So what are all these different ideas? So nanny share comes to mind. You and maybe your neighbors or friends that live close enough. Maybe you can use someone 1 or 2 days a week and somebody else uses them 1 or 2 days a week. And you can find 3 friends to do that so that you can find someone that's affordable. It's not easy to pay for someone for so much time 5 days a week, but if you can kind of adjust your schedule, you know, to lock in solid time each week, and that's where you spend time that you need to focus on certain things, you know, that might be an option for you, is like a nanny share.
Absolutely. Get support. And a lot of this stuff, again, I love circling back, not rocket science, but these are ideas and we learn from other people. And just by checking out something new, sometimes an idea might not sound like it would work for me, but then I give it a second thought and I go, well, okay, maybe I'm going to try it, or, oh, hey, it worked for someone else. I never thought of that. I don't know if it's going to fly, but, we're discerning. We experiment. So I encourage you, people to experiment with what works, right? So I want to get on to a couple more tips and tidbits. One of the suggestions that I saw online was they said, get a work-only phone line. I don't know if any of you have experience with that. I don't have a separate line for work, but I have come to develop really good boundaries around client things. So I don't respond to a client text if it's after hours, if it's not urgent, because that trains them and me when I'm available and when I'm not, so I say, put it in an email and then I get back to those during work hours. That's one boundary I have for myself. And then another idea is and that's one idea, to have a separate phone line for work, okay? One thing that might work for people who have a hard time getting out of their home office because they're on a roll, they're getting a lot done, their concentration is good, and they're into their work, is to, again, plan ahead. Think of give yourself a time that you want to be done that day by. Again, whether it's 6 o'clock or 3 o'clock. And then, as you were saying, Donna, what gets you out of bed in the morning? Put one of those treats at the end of your day, like dangle the carrot at the end of your day, and know that at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, whatever time you've committed to, that you're going to get that reward, benefit. It sounds kind of childish, but it's really just very basic thinking. And it's a really basic reward philosophy, that give yourself something to look forward to at the end of the day. So if I am in my home office and I know that I have to cook, clean, organize the kids, quiet the house down, I'm not really necessarily excited to do that. So why would I leave my home office? At least I'm being productive and getting stuff done. So for me to build something else into that too, and say, okay, when 5 o'clock hits, I'm going to give myself permission to go up to my bedroom, take a couple deep breaths, do some pranayamic breathing or yoga, or read a book for even 5 minutes just to tune out. But give yourself, something to look forward to before you go into the whole family life, because jumping into the family life from work life can be an additional stressor.
And to tell you the truth,
something that's going to feel good.
That's one of the things a commute serves for many people. That commute serves as that buffer time. You can listen to your podcast, you can rock out while you're at the stoplight. I hear what you're saying, and we've lost that. We've lost that now with this work.
Yes.
What does this news thing mean on your slide?
Well, I had some pieces of news. So one of them, I'm showing these articles and borrowing different ideas, but one of them is, how did COVID affect law firms and lawyers? And, most profoundly in the courtroom, we're not going to court, appearances, working with clients. Now we can notarize remotely. But, things have changed. Our workload might ebb and flow. Our clients might have different needs. And so I just wanted to share, the news. How has lawyering changed because of COVID? And those are some of the ways that they have. And, I have opposing counsel who wouldn't do digital depositions. So, it's causing further delay. Now, in that one case, it happened to settle. So, yay, I didn't have to do an emergency petition or get the court involved. But I really didn't want to go to the judge with a petition trying to force a deposition, because judges are in a hard spot to force them to, So anyway, our world has changed as lawyers practicing the law. It's in the news. You can Google it, read articles, and just get some common sense of how the practice of law has changed in ways that you can relate with, because we're all challenged right now to keep up with it, whether it's technology or, client struggles, additional struggles in particular cases because of COVID. I do a lot of family law, and a lot of that is, there have been delays, and that's causing financial strife and anxiety for all of my clients. So it's affecting us, and how can we just recognize and affirm that we're all going through it? So that was part of the news, and then also in the news are all these articles, working from home, 5 productivity hacks to help you get more done. I mean, plan everything out, make your office yours, get a phone line just for work. That was on this article. Practice prolonged concentration. I'll get back to that, and then let's practice it for a minute together because our time is up. And then the 5th one is to complete stressful tasks outside of your home. So hopefully I've given you enough suggestions to think about, which is planning ahead, look at your day, plan the bulky projects when you have the most concentration, look at setting particular boundaries for you. And if you wanted a short call with me, you can reach out. My information is at the end of the presentation, but we could actually look at, you designing what's going to work for you, what boundary is going to work for you. Because it's not always one size fits all. So I hope this is giving you all some ideas of things that you can do to clear the lines between work and home. And a lot of that is really like getting in touch with, well, what do you like about home or separate time from work, and to dig into that and to have boundaries and keep them. And sometimes it helps for me, once I set a boundary for myself, not to give myself too much wiggle room. Either have an accountability partner, or don't get emotional about it. Don't think about it. Just do it. Just do it, right? If I say I'm going to do it, then do it, and then give myself a reward for doing it. All right, I'm going to go make homemade soup. I'm going to go read my book, before I jump back into family life.
Book club book.
No, exactly. Okay, so, we have a couple minutes. A lot of these articles talk about just being aware and mindful. So, of course, we have, mindfulness meditation. And if you look at the report, you can see how they define it, and you can see the benefits. It can enhance cognitive reframing, monitor our thoughts, avoid become emotionally overwhelmed. It can reduce rumination, stress, depression, anxiety, increase focus, concentration, working memory, reduce burnout and ethical and rational decision making, and enhance the sense of work-life balance. So that's the definition that the task force gives. And then we talk about meditation. Meditation is really simple. And if any of you wanted to call, I always offer this. It is hard to start a meditation practice, and it's ridiculously tangible. All it is, when we break it down, is practicing being still, breathing, and noticing our breath, and then letting the rest go. Don't judge the thoughts that you have. You're never going to get rid of your thoughts. We're cognitive thinking humans. Even when we're sleeping, we have thoughts. They're called dreams. It's really nice when we're not having dreams and we're just zonked out and we get uninterrupted sleep for several hours at a time, and then our body is rejuvenating, and it's nice to give ourselves a break. So another way, other than just thinking or drugging or drinking or any of those other things, numbing things, is to sit and be still. And I'm going to promise you something. We're not allowed to make promises as lawyers, but the more you practice it or try it, the more it works. So let's do it for 2 minutes. Can we do it for 2 minutes?
Right now?
Okay, right now. Just 2 minutes of sitting and being. And I'll talk you through it so that hopefully it's not too uncomfortable for you people to just sit and be. And I love it when I have enough time to do 10 minutes. But let's just do 2 minutes. How does that sound? Good?
Okay.
Okay.
It's your show.
What?
It's your show. So we're doing it.
Okay. Will you set a timer, Donna, for 2 minutes for us?
Okay. And I'm also going to make you big.
Okay.
And make me gone.
Oh, but I like the picture on the presentation better. You don't want to see me, do you?
Yeah.
Here's a good one. How about this one?
Aren't we supposed to close our eyes? Oh, okay. That's nice.
Oh, I know. I like this one. Okay. So set the timer, if you would, for 2 minutes, and let's just start now. This will be good.
What are we doing? Do we close our eyes?
Sit. Find your breath. Breathe all the way into your belly so you can feel it. When you take a deep breath, watch out for that. Just breathe in and have it go all the way down. So yes, let's breathe. 3 deep breaths together. Breathe in through your nose, all the way into your belly. Hold it. Breathe out through your mouth, longer than you were breathing in. Let it all out. Nice. And this next one, breathe in through your nose, all the way down to your belly. Sit up a little bit straighter. Hold it. And breathe out through your mouth. One more. Breathe in through your nose. Sit up nice and straight, all the way into your belly. Hold it. And breathe out. Let your eyes close. When you breathe out, you can put the tip of your tongue on the back of your top teeth. Try that the next time you do deep breathing. You can do one more now. Breathe in through your nose. Relax your shoulders. Let your arms hang and be heavy. Sit into your seat and sit up straight and hold it. Tongue behind your teeth and blow it out. Keep blowing. And just resume your normal breathing. You can keep your eyes closed. Find your breath. Just notice your breath. Breathe in through your nose. Notice the air is cool. When you breathe out through your nose, you'll notice it's warm.
We're at 5 seconds.
And just breathe. Thank you. Let any thoughts come and go like they're billowing on a cloud. And just notice, just when you do this later, just go through your body and notice areas that might feel tight. Loosen them up a little bit. Breathe into them. Notice the sounds around you and let them be okay. Yes, I hear you. You can thank your thoughts. Yes, I'll get back to you. And just thank yourself for giving yourself this little bit of time to just be without demands or expectations of yourself. Find your breath again. Notice how you're in contact with the floor, the chair underneath you. Your arms might get heavier. Relax the lines on your forehead and just go through your body. And again, notice any areas where they're tight or tense and just breathe into them and relax or wiggle it out. And
are we wiggled out?
Go back to your breath. So to be done with this just sitting and mini meditation practice, let's take one more deep breath in through your nose. Keep your shoulders down and breathe in. Hold it. Breathe out. Take your hands and your palms together, rub them together till you feel the friction and the warmth. Put your hands on your eyes. Feel the energy of your hands, the warmth of your body, the life that's in your body. Trace your face with your fingertips. Maybe make it the shape of a heart. Aw. And then, when you're ready, open your eyes.
Great, I'm back. I am like the meditation buzzkill. But as the timekeeper, I have to call the 4-minute meditation off so that we can.
No, that was done. We did 2 minutes. That was plenty.
I don't know whose 2 minutes that was, but.
Oh, yes, it was 4 minutes. Yeah, you're right. I hear you. I said 2 minutes. See, that's why I budget twice the time.
But I want to give you a chance to get through the rest of your slides. I'm sure you had more than 3, you know.
Sure. This is it.
We're coming up. Oh, we're there? Okay.
This is it.
Good. Then I
So,
just wanted to make sure we weren't cutting you short with, you know, the time is coming up.
we're done. Yeah, you've earned your hour of CLE. And
Yeah.
you know, the final thoughts I like to leave with people are, you know, asking, and you don't have to answer, although you can. What was that like for you? Did you feel different before you closed your eyes and did a couple deep breaths? Almost everyone across the board will say, yes, I feel calmer, or wow, I can focus a little better. I feel more grounded. So just notice, I'm asking all of you, just notice what that was like for you. If it made you a little antsy, that's okay too. That won't last. If you do this, if you do this and experiment with you, I promise you, you're going to have different experiences every time, and they will only get better. So call me. You can text, call, email, whatever, reach out to me. I'll do a guided meditation for you or an instructional, and you can sit and I'll tell you how to carry on your own. But just to have a practice where you can be still and breathe is an asset. It's a tool for your toolbox. Your housemates will thank you. Your friends will thank you. People you live with, people you work with will thank you. And there's research out there to prove it. I don't make any of this up. So with that, thanks for tuning in.
To, as always, let you know I really appreciate your soothing voice, for one, and your great tips, information, and your willingness to share this stuff with us, because I do think it's important. So your positivity is a welcome treat. So thank you again for doing this. And we hope to have you come, you know, again at a timely point this year or next year, whenever, you know, we'll talk about that. For the viewers, thank you for joining us today. There is a handout that you should be able to find inside of your menu if you want to download that task report. It was also, or should have been, as part of the reminder email that you received. You can find a link there and download it through that. And we were approved, just to confirm, for 1 hour of professional responsibility for mental health and wellness. So with that, I wish you all well. I hope you have a nice weekend, nice relaxing weekend, and stay happy.
And thanks everyone for coming. Thanks, Donna, always, for your personality and for your inquisitions. I love it. And thank you for having me. Yes, we'll plan another one. And I will end as I always do. Oh, here shows the heart. It's just a nice sound. So here we go. And then I'm saying goodbye. I won't say anything else.